I'm Corbett Wall with DB Auction, here with your feeder flash for Tuesday, March the 23rd, brought to you in part by Alltech. Alltech's feed additives are backed by science and real customer success. Whether it's combating mycotoxins in feedstuff, improving conception rates, or just improving weight gains on cattle, visit alltech.com for more information. We've got a week to gain here. Everybody's in a good mood. We had some success in the meat-in festivities and events in Colorado, which kind of fought off the crazy governor's proclamation there to not eat meat on the 20th, which was Saturday. So completely overshadowed that. Even in some big publications back east, they talked about how the meat-in events completely overshadowed anything that was gained by meat out. So that's a good thing. But we're coming in here on this week. We've had some moisture to start out the week in the southern plains, which never happens. Had some rain, even barely measurable, but had some rain around the Amarillo area in the Texas Panhandle. Get out into Oklahoma, they had some nice rains. This is very timely because we're needing that right now. But you know, everybody's just in a pretty good mood. The cattle on feed report that we had come out Friday, even though most of us just rolled our eyes when they showed that over 98% were placed on feed during February as the same time a year ago, when we know that that couldn't have happened whenever, you know, the entire country, especially cattle country, was almost entirely shut down for a week to 2 weeks as far as feeder cattle marketing goes, because of that really cold stint that we had in there. So nobody paid too much attention to that, but actually your cattle on feed report was not bearish, because your analysts that put the average of the analyst guess together, they pretty much had it pegged anyway. So there was no bearishness from that. Everything going forward, we saw a little bit higher fat cattle market towards the end of last week. Our highs were put in towards the end of last week. And yeah, basically our market's $1.14, but they were cranking it up a little bit, 14.5 in some places, even the southern plains, maybe 15 and a quarter in some spots on some really nice cattle in the north. But I think we can break and get loose of that 114 as the main number this week. Feeder cattle guys should be kind of excited about that. The grass is coming on. We've got some green spots in pretty much all your areas, except for where it's been really cold and continues to stay cold at night. But your major grazing areas are starting to green up, and now as it starts staying more consistently warmer, and especially overnight, we'll see that grass really start to come on, and that always puts people in good moods there. This week we are going to have the reintroduction of Chuck Grassley's 5014 bill there, and so they're going to be bringing that up again, which is a good thing. It's all about getting some type of a mandated minimum requirement of negotiated cash sales from your big major packers. So you guys know that I've been pushing Deb Fisher's bill, the Cattle Market Transparency Act, which is not as strong as the 5014, but it does include some other things that we really need, which is that basically library of deals that were negotiated on formula things that most of your major packers are involved in. What's in those deals? What's in those sweetheart deals? You know, how can some smaller other feedlots negotiate their own type of a deal, and what kind of things are in there? You know, it also has states in there that USDA should make every effort to report as much information as they can and still maintain the confidentiality rules and mandatory price reporting. All those things are very important. The only thing that I would say that reason that I would push Cattle Market Transparency Act instead of 5014 is I don't think we can get to 5014. I've told you guys from the last couple of years that we've been pushing that. That's why I was pushing 3014. You know, Iowa Cattlemen's Association, God love them, they've had policy for 50% negotiated cash all along. And I would have thought it would have been easier for them to adjust their policy rather than to continue to beat this dead horse. But I just don't think there's any way you can get 50-14. We've got some legislators in there that know enough about this that a lot of them are getting major pressure against it, and we know that the Southern Plains Cattlemen's Associations are going to be against it. They're against any kind of competitive trade that would cause your packers to have to bid against one another, and there would be higher prices achieved at some point. But they're really against the 50-14 because 50 is just, it's more than anybody would fathom us getting. If you take your negotiated cash in your 5 area feeding regions, Iowa is somewhere close to 50. But all the rest of all the other 4 of your 5 major feeding areas are nowhere close to 50. So how are we going to go from let's say 6 or 7% negotiated cash in Texas to 50? It would be more reasonable to do the Cattle Market Transparency Act, set those and which can be adjusted every 5 years or so, but to set those where they're more believable and more achievable within each area of the whole country. So if we could get 50-14, man, I would say that was great, and I would be glad to give credit to anybody that's involved in it. But it's just a lot to ask, and like some of the other things that we've tried to achieve, in this cattle business through different associations, if we ask too much, we have to be kind of negotiable a little bit on these things to try to move things. If we're going to upset the entire apple cart, who knows what they'll come up with. Instead of just adjusting what we have right now, who knows what they'll come up with to buy the cattle. But let's talk about your board on Monday. April live cattle futures up 37 cents at 118.77. June up a quarter at 118.92. Those are nice, modest gains to start the week, and it was consistently higher as you went to the back months, up 30 cents to up 57 cents. March feeder cattle up 40 cents at 135.07. April was steady or unchanged at 139.42, going out from there, and they were all higher too, so you can't ask for much more than that on a Monday to start out the week, but up a nickel to up 42 cents. Weighted average on last week's negotiated fed cattle trade on a direct basis in your 5 area feeding region for the whole week, 70,400 head. And there again, this week would have tripped several triggers in that 75% of a robust market that NCBA has kind of introduced to look at, saying that if we hit those triggers consistently, that they would also get behind some kind of a mandated minimum negotiated cash trade. Well, we've been tripping triggers like crazy ever since they proposed that. So why even fool with it? And they've never actually accepted it, just kind of put it out there. Well, we tripped a bunch more triggers, especially in Texas this past week, but 70,400 is not a very active movement. That compares to 82,000 the prior week and 131,300 head a year ago this week. And we were kind of dealing with some major effects of the start of this new pandemic at that time. Let's talk about your prices. Live steers and heifers, your 5 area feeding region, 111 to 116, but it was still mostly the 114. But I talked about how it wavered a little bit, especially later in the week to the higher side. But your weighted average on live steers, 114.23, up 61 cents compared to the weighted average from the previous week, because it was on the downside or the underside of 114 a lot. But that was mostly steady in the Southern Plains, steady to a buck higher for the most part in the Northern Plains on a live basis. Dress sales, which are mostly all in your northern feedlot areas, there was $2 higher, pretty much straight across, and you don't see hardly any dress sales in the Southern Plains or in Colorado. So it was $2 higher from basically 178 to 180 the previous week to 180 to 182 this last week. But the range in prices on a dress base for steers and heifers were 179 to 185. But your weighted average on dress steers, 181.33, and just like I said, $2.01 higher than the previous week. So gaining ground, you can't complain about that. Nationwide only sold 80,700 head. It's only 10,000 more, and the whole rest of the United States negotiated, aside from your 5-area feeding region. That 80,700 head negotiated compares to 244,600 head formula basis last week. But in your negotiated sales, about 24% of those, or 19,700 head, were for the 2 to 4 week delivery. Box beef cutout values, some higher to start the week. Choice cuts $230.95, up 96 cents. Select up pretty big on Monday, up $3.10, $223.05. Let's talk about your feeder cattle markets, your real-time index on DV auction late in the day on Monday. 135.49 based on an 800-pound steer. That was 64 cents higher than the end of trade last week, or on Saturday, than the last trade that we had. Your steer tracker, which is your bunches or packages of index cattle that were the last ones to go through, they were at 139.90. So it's on the upswing, guys, and kind of in a big way. And like I said, this is a good week to gain some ground. How about your big sales? Oklahoma National Stockyards, Oklahoma City, 10,500 head, and they just called the market steady. Calves, stockers, feeder cattle, everything steady, which, that's a good thing if we can hold steady, but I think we should be gaining some ground this week as we move forward. Joplin Regional Stockyard, 6,000 head. Feeder steers there, $2 to $5 higher. Calves and feeders under 600 pounds steady. Heifers steady to $4 higher. Some other sales around the circuit. Sioux Falls Regional Livestock, Worthing, South Dakota, 2,900 head there. Feeder steers $2 to $5 higher. Some stocker weights $6 to $9 higher. Feeder heifers steady to $3 higher, and spots on those stocker cattle on heifers too, as much as $5 higher. So gaining quite a bit of ground. Some pretty impressive individual quotes. Faith Livestock Auction, Faith, South Dakota, 61 head, 559 pound steers, bring $186. And then a couple of big time quotes out of Aberdeen Livestock Sales, Aberdeen, South Dakota. How about 87 head, 610 pound steers, bring $173.50. But I thought this one was even higher, and it's the highest quote I saw anywhere on Monday. And your Zach Tran top quote for the day out of Aberdeen there, 79 head, 708 pounds at $155.50. And that's your feeder flash for Tuesday.